Okay, we're gonna get started. Good? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Item 4 is requiring reporting of monies and proceeds of asset forfeiture funds maintained by the county. This is Matt Peterson.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Previously, resolution number 386 passed unanimously out of Audit and Finance. There was a request that it come back to law for further evaluation. We are now doing that. It is my goal to get this done before the end of the year, as the reporting requirements are supposed to be for the end of January. We want to make sure that's in place. And I believe that this is the last scheduled meeting of the Law Committee, and the other committees are this week. Specifically, 386. We are asking, basically following some not so great news on issues with seizure funds. I looked into what type of off-budget funds specifically go through that are not approved by us, but that have sometimes caused our taxpayers to ask us what's going on. I therefore came up with a bill that I believe just does not take away any type of reporting authority from any state entity or federal entity that does it, but just once a year gives us a list of what's going on. So in this case, it's specifically looking back at a 2019 law, which was New York State General Municipal Law 6-V. And what we found then was that that 2019 law stated that the county comptroller, after receiving that information, or should have been receiving that information from both the DA and the sheriff, would submit it to the state. All this is asking is that by the 31st January of each year, that we receive a copy of what is supposed to go to the state from the previous year. I wasn't looking for making additional work, just very simply that we know that information. There is 0 things on that list that we should either not know or there's any privacy issue. And in another one of my bills in 387, I also looked at monies that are spent or done by the public administrator in the exact same vein. I'll go into that in just a second.
Yeah, let's do one of them.
Yeah, the only reason I'm bringing that up is I was looking at all monies that are outside our budget that we do not have authority to approve or deny, but that regardless reflects and is spent on behalf of Albany County, that we should be aware of. So that is 386.
Any questions on 386? Ms. Burton?
Yeah, I'm, I don't know how to. Is there, have you discussed this, and I know the controller is here, is there a meeting of the minds that this is a good thing? And that's question number 1. And number 2, one of the things I'm concerned about, or I shouldn't say I'm concerned about, but for many years with the Colony Police Department, I was the one that had to countersign for anything from the seizure account. And in many instances, we were buying law enforcement tools that you might not want there to be general public awareness of. And I don't know if anything in these forfeiture reports would have in any way compromised law enforcement activities. Are these public documents now? I mean, who do they go to? The state controller?
It's supposed to go to, I believe, the state comptroller as well. It also may have to go to certain federal authorities based on what it is. So, for example, when there was the issue with the DA, some of that money was supposed to be given to OCFS based on the type of funding that came in, for example.
Okay. Well, I guess my concern is that I wouldn't want us, by doing this, to unveil something that there could potentially be a reason not to disclose.
I mean, I spoke to the
I don't
sheriff.
know what I don't know, but, you know.
about 4 or 5 months ago, I spoke to the sheriff. He had no issue with it, and that would be the most of the law enforcement stuff. I believe most of this is probably foilable, in which case, like, I have no real issue on that one. Additionally, in talking with some folks today, I do know that the DA and the sheriff's office have stated that they will be helping the comptroller get these reports done and offered assistance. And also, I can also say that it's due to the state, it's due to the reports. We sort of get all the sheriff's reporting and his budgeted items as well. So I can't really imagine what in this would be super secret. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just to be clear, any purchases that are done with county money are a matter of public record anyway. So, I mean, anything it all has to be approved, whether it's approved by the legislature or CAB or the executive himself. There's a paper trail for everything the county spends money on.
Mr. Kuhn.
Okay, so the county sheriff, what are the entities that are doing the asset forfeiture that we're talking about here? The county sheriff
And the DA.
and the DA. So when they seize assets through asset forfeiture, those assets are sold and then they go into an escrow fund?
I'd have to,
I think it depends, honestly.
it depends on the type of funding, and
Yeah.
it depends on what it's seized from. Like, everything has a different thing. So for example, some drug-related things have to go, a certain percentage has to go back to OCFS for drug treatment. So it all depends on what type of asset is seized.
Okay.
To what degree is,
Hold on.
okay, okay.
So there are funds that are generated by asset forfeiture for the county sheriff and for the DA. There's an escrow fund gets created. The county comptroller is in charge of sort of the fiscal aspects of that and reporting of how those funds, where they came from and how they were used. Our county comptroller reports those to the state comptroller.
Based on New York State General Municipal Law, yes.
Okay, and so what this resolution would do is basically say, okay, the report of that the county comptroller is providing to the state comptroller, we're just basically asking for a copy of it?
Which is already required under General Municipal Law 6D. So this is just a.
It's
kind of a
codifying,
request.
like, it's codifying what we're supposed to get.
So we're supposed to get it under state law anyway, and we're just basically passing a resolution saying we'd really like to get that thing?
Because we've never gotten it.
Oh. Okay. Well, okay, so we should be getting it under this General Municipal Law Section 6-B?
That's what I was told, yes.
Okay, so we're just basically saying to the comptroller,
Just gonna-
we're just reiterating that we want this
Stop
thing.
the time.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
And just because I know our chair is talking about this, I want to talk about both of these things, and then of course the comptroller can come up and answer questions or talk about it, but I want to go through both resolutions first, intent, et cetera. I'm fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we're not gonna vote on this until we hear from the.
Correct, I think that would be
Yeah,
proper,
that's fine.
if that's okay with
That's
you,
fine,
Mr. Chairman.
yeah. Okay.
I think we should do them one at a time.
I think you should do it.
I'm not disagreeing on the vote, but I think if there's statements.
Yeah, we'll do the vote one at a time. But if you want to have him give his explanation and then have the comptroller come up and
Okay.
say her piece and then.
All right. Well, I don't have any more questions about the first one.
You're running, Bill. You're running.
Somebody's got some,
Someone's got some really good
Good taste
tunes
in
on the
music.
phone.
Oh, okay.
It's gotta be Bill.
If it's okay, I'll start with 387.
Go
Mr.
ahead
Chairman.
with 387.
Okay, so to break that down, the first part of the resolved is that on February 1st, we would get a list from the county comptroller on their work as public administrator, including what properties or assets were sold and how any resulting funds were spent, as well as annual reporting documents submitted to the surrogate's court. However, and I just want to explain one thing, there is some concern that there might be some sensitive information on the surrogate court. I have been assured by counsel that all of that information is public and foilable anyway. However, if that's the case, if there does come down that the surrogate court believes there's some issue, I have alternative language which can easily be amended. I'm going to read that to you, not that we're going to do that now, but just in case, because the intent is not to obviously circumvent the surrogate court in the same way that's not to surrogate the office of the state comptroller or anything like that. It's simply to get information. So I had put that there be a further resolved to take the surrogate court out of it, and that basically that the Albany County legislature work with the county comptroller as the former, a list of actions which will include but not be limited to a list of expenses incurred by the county, including staff hours other than those of the county comptroller, and any reimbursement thereof, personal or real property sold, assessments of real property sold and if available, personal property sold, descriptions of real property, including addresses, expenses incurred for services rendered by third-party compensation, compensation donated to charities, and compensation directly received by the county comptroller for the work as public administrator. Now, where did I get that? That's a good question. The OSC has audited several public administrators, including in my home county of Nassau County, where we don't always do things right. And one of the recommendations that they had in their findings, that they basically were saying that, in the key recommendations, that the hiring and any related employments to employees be created in a specific expense account that's reported, but then prepare each annual report to the state comptroller. So it's not, the reason I bring that up is it is reported to several parties, not just the circuit court, but the office of the state comptroller. So again, we're not saying that we are above any of those or we are instead of any of those, but that the details given to them are definitely something that we should be able to see. And continuing just with going on the rest of the whereases and resolved, that we are looking for a specific date. I'm sorry, that the AUD is submitted to the chair and of the Legislative Audit and Finance Committee by May 14th of each year, and a copy of the AUD that's submitted to New York State Comptroller in April of each year is submitted, as well as a snapshot summary of the unrestricted fund balance as of that date. The AUD is already submitted. That's again public information. It's just making sure it's consistent when we get it. Further resolved that the comptroller shall appear and present on the fiscal year of the county to the Albany County Legislature at the May legislative meeting, or if that is not feasible for any given year, that the comptroller shall submit a request to the chairman of the legislature by April 30th of such year to appear and present at the June legislative meeting. And that's simply to make sure that we are consistent when we are getting that information. It's important as we consider the budget, and the fact is it's gone back and forth every couple months based on things, and we need to know in advance when we should receive that information. Further, be it resolved that the Commissioner of the Department of Management and Budget shall include in the submission of the capital program to the legislature by July 1st of each year all the applicable bond identification information for each of the included proposed projects. This is something we've long discussed, and I was inspired by Mr. Grimm on this one, as I've given him credit quite frequently. And then further resolved that the Commissioner of the Department of Management and Budget shall include in all requests for legislative action relating to capital projects, list in the capital program, where in the capital program the project is contained, and what the funding source is. Again, these were questions we often have in audit and finance. By having it included, and again, these conversations, at least as far as these dates go, were started in May.
Okay, so this is for people who die, well, the public administrator, that's for people who die in
Without heirs, yes.
Or without heirs.
Without heirs and without potential, without like a will.
Okay. All right, well, I mean, you mentioned privacy concern. Whose privacy?
That wasn't my concern. I was just brought up. So I'm just listing concerns that were brought up to me. I'm stating them. I'm trying to, the idea in this, all this, is to get us information on certain dates so that we're not scrambling to remember what we're supposed to get and when we're supposed to get it, and it's in one place, and that as we're especially getting RLAs, as Mr. Grimm knows, when we get things and we're asking, okay, where in the capital plan is and how are we paying for that, instead of scrambling, it's already included in the RLA.
Why is this before us?
It was sent before Audit and Finance and passed unanimously. It was then requested to come back to us because the question was, do we have the right to request this information?
So just the legal question of whether the legislature has
The right
the
to
right
act,
to this information is
That's
before the
correct.
law committee.
that's my understanding of it,
Essentially.
is that,
Essentially.
But-
Because most of this is audit and finance. stuff.
Yes, but because it's before you, it would need a positive, or a recommendation.
Right, but it is our focus on this, on whether or not this is legal, not whether it's wise from a audit and finance.
Yeah, I mean, the audit and finance issues have already been discussed.
Right.
So, yes.
So we're really just
It's
being
more
asked
legal
about the
issues.
jurisdictional legal issues, right?
Essentially, I mean, it's not.
And that's why it was
really the
referred to.
Committee to discuss audit and finance.
Yeah, I
I'd
guess
like-
it's,
but-
yes.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Mr. Berger?
This one, we break it down into different parts. The first one with the surrogates court stuff. Isn't public administrator under the jurisdiction and guidance of the surrogate court? Don't they report to the surrogate court and follow the direction of the surrogate court? And nothing can be finalized until it meets with the surrogate court's approval? So they have the technical knowledge to know and guide the public administrator if the surrogate's court is doing its job.
Well, the public administrator hires a lawyer, and they submit their paperwork to the surrogate's court, and then ultimately it would get approved by the surrogate's court.
Right.
But anything in a surrogate's court file is public record.
Okay, so there aren't instances of contestation of wills? or-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
so all of that is public, and the court doesn't have the ability to seal any of that if they so choose?
Anything that gets filed in a surrogate's court file is a public record. So, right.
Okay, I'm just wondering, once again, I'm worried about, if somebody dies and they live in an apartment and they got a $10,000 bank account and a car, that's one thing. But if there are people who die with $10 million estates and $20 million estates that have no
heirs and no will.
No heirs and no will,
Right.
or contested heirs, or whatever, and these things get tremendously complex.
Sure.
And we're going to affirmatively create, or how are we providing oversight?
we're not asking for oversight, there's nothing about oversight.
Okay, well, what are we asking?
We're asking
For-
we're asking for a report to understand what happened in the last year. So in the same way, and maybe this is a better way to say it, in the same way with the DA and those funds, we want once a year to say what you did in the last year. We're not saying you can't do it, we're not approving it or disapproving it.
No, but what level of detail does there have to be? Does it have to be, you did the Bergdorf estate and Bergdorf was worth $10,000 and it was resolved and approved by the surrogate's court on a certain date? And we did the Peters estate and he was worth $300 million and that strung out in litigation for 2.5 years and there were a whole bevy of experts hired, et cetera, and we have to list every one of them, and I'm not sure what would have to be filed under this reporting mechanism. And I'm very leery about creating a new area for potentially confidential information.
So
that
again,
the court would have.
But you keep saying confidential
It's not
information, but it's not
confidential.
confidential.
Well, once again, I don't know what you're asking to require.
So as I-
Does
as-
the-
so as I read it-
Does the public administrator know?
I mean, if I,
Go ahead.
I can reread it.
Well,
as I
no,
did.
I mean, do we have a copy of what some other county put in? Is it literally, you did Bergdorf for 10 and Peters for 300 million, and they were approved on this date by the surrogate's court? Or what kind of detail, in addition to that, are people looking for?
I mean, and so I did, like I said, two ways. There's what was originally here, which was, it was what was presented to the surrogate court, literally copy and paste, and then, and it says, what properties or assets were sold, and how any resulting funds were spent.
Okay, so.
So, or, right, because I said the other one too, is that, the sort of long list I sent, where we're looking for basically address, assessed value,
Yeah.
right? What it was sold for, and then what type of expenses were accumulated. You hired a lawyer for X amount of dollars. The proceeds then go, by the way, from what I understand, to the state's unclaimed funds after all of that is done. To my understanding, it would also be that the public administrator wouldn't be involved in a contested estate, since there's people willing to act. We only act as a public administrator, to my understanding, when there is no will or there's no heirs.
Right.
Otherwise, why would there be a public administrator?
If you're liquidating a piece of property.
We're not talking about probate. Probate for a will or anything, a contested estate is separate.
Once
entirely.
again, I don't know what I don't know.
That's fine.
And
That's why we're trying to
That's why
tell
I'm
you.
asking
Yeah.
someone who, I'd like to hear from the controller.
Of course.
on this,
You're going
and-
to.
And we will.
And you're right, I'm happy to
But
answer.
I will tell you, in actuality, what I believe is going to happen here, sum it all down and take it from someone who's paid a tremendous amount of legal and accounting bills on estate stuff, is now you probably have an attorney that is preparing your filing or what you need to give to the surrogate's court, and they're now going to have to create, at the estate's expense, another report to comply with what Albany County wants. And that ends up as a net deduction for whoever the beneficiaries are of the estate.
Wait a minute.
But the beneficiaries are the state
It's
of New
us.
York.
Yeah.
Well,
Is this a pre-existing report that, like, we're basically asking for? a
So the
copy of?
surrogate court report is pre-existing,
Right.
right? I've never seen the surrogate court report. So what I'm simply saying is, so what I've done is gotten the very basic things that I know, everything, you need to have, if you're putting a house for sale, you have to have the address. You have to have an assessed value. You have to know what it was sold for. You know what attorney you hired. Right? You know, that's not information you need to hire someone to do. You have that because you're paying your bills
Right.
from the accounts.
And aren't there reports to the surrogate's court?
Yes.
So is it any more complicated than saying there's certain information that is reported to the surrogate's court, and we would like some of that information provided to the county legislature as well? Is that it?
I think part of it is the only person, the public administrator here we don't know what that report entails. We haven't seen what it is. We assume we know basic things about what it is, but we're not sure because we've never been privy to that report. It's never been offered to us. So unless there's some discussion there, which to my knowledge there has not been, or unless we see the report itself, we don't know exactly what is inside of it.
Yeah, and I remember at the last State of the Fisc, there was like there were slides about this, about like public administrator and like money that was.
Yes, so we're reporting, and that's one of the reasons, and it's the same thing as when with the sheriff and with the DA, when you're publicly reporting the positives of the proceeds, publicly, continuously, and then when we ask for the details and it's no, that's too much work to give us the details of it, I don't buy that. Like, I don't buy that like it's too much effort, and they haven't said this or anything, that for the sheriff to give me information on how he's spending his seizure money. I don't think that's too much effort. I just don't buy that. And I'm not, and there are good things, but when there are things out there and I get questions, and I get questions, what's happening with this? And I can't say, I don't know. Because I didn't want someone to make a report for me of information that they already give to someone else.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, it seems like, it's pre-existing information. Why should
Well,
we-
this is what I'm trying to do, and maybe if the controller, when she gets up here, I'm gonna ask her a question, which is, and maybe she can hear it now, what is it that you give the surrogate's court? Is there anything confidential in it? And can you staple 3 of them together and send it to the county.
Right.
If it's that simple and there's nothing confidential, and we're not creating any other,
Everything in a circuit court file is a public record. You can go there and look at it.
well, once again, excuse me, my colleague, Mr. Peter, read out a list of things.
Right.
Okay? I don't know if they're all in the report to the surrogates court, the way he wants them. I don't want the controller, who is answerable to the surrogates court for the administration of estates, to have to worry, if all you're looking for is what's public information and what's in the surrogates court,
So-
why are we making this harder
So,
than that?
and I just want to say one thing, and then I think we can bring the comptroller,
Yeah.
right, which is fine. All I'm saying in this, in the original bill is, include what properties or assets were sold. Right?
Yeah.
I don't understand how we couldn't have that information. You can't actually receive money unless you list what's being sold or not. And then how any resulting funds were being spent. I fully believe.
Well, you're telling me that they all escheat to the state and their expenses. Do we have to
No,
list every
no.
process server, and
No,
every
so,
lawyer that
and
was-
then, that's not what I'm
and
saying.
every ring that was sold?
No, that's not what I'm saying, and then, that's not what I'm saying. What, if you look at what the issue is, and I fully believe that the comptroller will clarify this. The assets of the estate, after it is settled, all the expenses by the county are then settled, right? Other things we've hired, and then all remaining monies are deposited to the state. Okay?
Unless sometimes they do find errors.
Unless they, right.
Sometimes
Or unless they find an error somewhere. And so I said those two things, literally what properties or assets were sold, and how any resulting funds were spent, as well as the annual reporting documents submitted to the Sarah's Board. That's it, it's three things.
All right.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
just to be clear, all public administrator records are also foilable. So there's nothing that she could have that is not foilable already. It's all public information.
Well, once again, I kind of think it's embarrassing that we're stabbing at answers here. And I recognize that.
Paul, I think, I'm gonna allow her to come up and speak, but we're not gonna get into question and answers with the comptroller. She's gonna speak here as a courtesy in front of the committee, but we're not gonna get in the back and forth with the comptroller, and she understood that when I talked to her today. You know,
You can't ask her questions?
I think that's
She's not properly
ridiculous.
before the committee.
She's not properly.
This is
before-
not her item.
It's my,
It's
It's
the
as well.
problem, that's the problem.
like other
She asked
departments,
to be
like
heard
in the
on
same
it.
way other departments.
She asked to make a statement.
Is there another separately elected official that we would put a mandate on that we could not publicly ask their opinion of what the adverse impacts were of a law? That's ridiculous. It's an insult to our integrity. If there's really nothing here, why are we
I don't even
Why are
have
we
to allow
holding
her to-
our cards so close to our vest?
I don't even have to allow her to appear, Paul. I'm doing it as a courtesy, all right? I don't. It's Matt's item. We could deal it right now. We can move it, pass it, you know,
But she should be allowed to come up, like, I'm fine with it. Like,
right, and have her state her case.
Well, I had a second issue. And once again, I find this embarrassing, and I've shared some of it with Matt, and I wish I had brought copies today. Another thing we're asking for is, what is this document that gets filed? I get lost in the acronym.
AUD,
Yeah, annual
update this.
discount. Okay, so, this is on the controller's website, right? When it's due to be filed.
Sometimes, this isn't like, and so let me just point out, and this is something that we talked about, and let me also say a couple things, right? When we came to debt service policy and the reserve policy, we put everything in writing just in case someone wasn't doing it. Before the current comptroller, it wasn't always on the website. So very wisely, Office of Management and Budget, and
DiNapoli doesn't put this on his website? He's the state controller.
I thought put them into
Don't we report the annual,
It's not on the state comptroller's
doesn't it get
website.
sent to the state controller? Isn't it available on the state controller's website? Gee, we're getting nods, yes.
Okay.
So,
I think there's confusion because you were talking about comptroller without
You said-
clarifying.
I'm
which
sorry.
The
comptroller.
Which comptroller?
because here's
state controller.
because the county comptroller also puts it on their website. Currently, this comptroller has done a very good job of putting that up there.
It wasn't done previously.
And but there's lots of things that weren't done previously.
So I guess I'm concerned about, we're gonna start putting into law every piece of paper we want that is publicly available in some other venue of county government?
But
Surrogates
but it's
court
not
and
always
county
guaranteed at
control?
the certain times. So for example, should I have to foil every piece of property in this to understand what's happening as public administrator?
Right. We should be provided it, we shouldn't have to chase it down.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, I don't
All right,
understand I really don't
once
understand your
again-
objection to this. Like, generally you seem predisposed to full
Looking for-
disclosure.
well, I'm gonna get to
but
that. I'm
here
gonna
you're,
get to
like,
that.
biased against it. I don't
No,
understand.
I'm biased against creating work that's already there. And if it's on our website and it's filed with the state controller, is it that important that somebody has to, ooh, by the way, I gotta get it to.
But
the-
it was the same stuff we did when it came to the debt service policy and the fund balance policy, where we were already doing that. But we want to codify it.
Well,
But we didn't object to that.
This
But
is.
this is the one you seem to be on.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah,
interesting.
all right, we're moving on, okay.
But there's one other thing I want to make this committee aware of. I think as a legislator, we get zero information on the fiscal position of Albany County on a regular basis. I served on a body for 16 years, county town board.
Paul,
No, Dennis, please. Where we got a monthly report of the fiscal condition from, in this instance, the town controller is comparable to audit and budget. And I gave Matt, earlier this week, a copy of that document. That anyone in a legislative capacity who is truly concerned about the fiscal condition of their county, they don't have to wait for a public document that's filed once a year. If you want to know the position, the controller of our town can push a button and issue a management report. Rebecca knows what I'm talking about. She's seen them all her years of service. I wish I had brought them to hand around. You can see by every department, every revenue line, everything, what the fiscal condition was. What did you spend last year? What we are budgeted for this year?
But aren't we trying to get more information in the whole point? No.
Yeah, but
really.
that's what I'm saying. I think we're focused on the wrong thing.
But I'm not even disagreeing with Paul. Like that's
I mean,
what's
that's what I'm saying.
I just wanna
I'm trying to
say-
I think we should be moving in that direction.
And actually, Paul, based on our conversation, there was a law passed in 2019 that we're supposed to get quarterly reports. Based on that every quarter and stuff like that. I'm currently working on making sure that we have a timeline on it. I'm following everything you're saying. What I don't understand is that you're focused on, we need reports here, but not here. Not here. That's the
That's-
interesting
I don't get
part.
that.
I don't get it.
I'm telling you, if you want,
Wait,
you
can we
know,
just have the comptroller talk
yeah,
about this?
we gotta move on,
Yeah.
okay?
I'm
All
sorry, but
right,
it's like, I'm sorry.
you wanna come up? Susan?
Wow.
And finally, the controller.
Thank you.
Good evening,
Yeah.
Mr. Feeney, Mr. Peter, as well as other members of the committee. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. In regards to Resolution 386, the DA and the sheriff had agreed to an MOU. I sent a document to Mr. Peter explaining my concerns. I never had a conversation back. Nobody ever talked to me. I never knew where we stand. I send my notes. I never got a comment back. I called the DA and the sheriff, and they agreed, if I did an MOU, that they will give me the information so I can supply it to the legislators. The information that they currently submit to the state and the federal is not in the same format that the legislators have asked for. we have to file a CFA report. In the CFA report, you have to group things. That's what the sheriff supplies the information. The legislators want line item by line item expense. The DA and sheriff agreed. I said, okay, if I could do an MOU. So as far as Resolution 386, it does indicate that I have to give this information to you all by January 31st. I think that is very quick after the end of the year to try to get that information to the legislators, but we will comply. If they can get it to me, I'll get it to you.
Madam Comptroller, is
Yeah.
there, just sorry, is there a time that's a little better?
First quarter, I mean,
March 1st?
yes, they have to comply. So yes, March 1st would work, 386 is fine.
Okay.
Good.
As far as 387, there, I agree to paragraph 5 regarding reporting the AUD. We already do that. It's already on our website. We already report to the state. Yes, I will take another step and comply to send the report to the legislators. It's another step that we will take. In regards to paragraph 6, the same with the state of the fisc. I have always done the state of the fisc. I'm now being documented that I will do the state of the fisc. I will do the state of the fisc. Okay, fine, I agree to that. In regards to public administration, paragraph 4, I have every intention of cooperating, but I engage legal counsel. The public administrator job is the most difficult, time-consuming job, emotional as well as exhausting. We just got double paychecks this week. That's what I should be focusing on. I'm focusing on public administration because it's the law. The surrogate court requires the CFO to do this job, and I will say it is overwhelming. And no one in my office works on this. My deputies don't work on it. I buy my own pens. I buy my own postage. You'd have to see my tax returns if you want to see my charitable contributions. I have engaged an attorney, but I also, my primary obligation is to the surrogate court regarding public administration. I sent the proposed resolution to Judge A.C. Mosey, surrogate court judge, who is on the board for the surrogate court judges. The board is meeting now in December to discuss this request. I sent her a note tonight to confirm, and I said, Judge, I'm also telling the law committee that I can't give them any information unless the surrogate court approves. And she said, correct. I understand when you all say it's foilable. Foil it. I know you said you had no questions here. People have to realize, you talk about assets. Yes, I have to sell stamps, rings, cars. I get 3 bids. I feel this job is so overwhelming. If Albany County would like to take over this job, you'd have to get the surrogate court to approve it. Go look in my office right now. This is overwhelming. It is too much work, and now you all are asking me to supply additional data to you. No, I can't do this, but I will, whatever the surrogate court tells me I have to do, that's who I report to. It's a law. I know, Mr. Feeney, you said that it's all foilable. I did talk to the surrogate court here. I did talk to Judge Mosley. They're saying, hold please, let's go to the Board of Surrogate Court Judges. Mr. Peter is not exactly correct when he made statements here. When you die intestate, or if you die without a will, or if someone doesn't want to take over unraveling an estate. And I asked Mr. Clay, can I bring up the situation that happened to me with him? His family did not agree. Families don't agree. I have to deal with personal family issues. Mrs. Cunningham understands it. Mr. Clay understands it. I had to unravel an asset on First Street. 3 brokers. We had squatters. We had drugs. We had needles. We had condoms. And I have to sell that house. Yes. and I did. But then there is a Medicaid lien, and then there's taxes that are due. We're focusing on the wrong thing, I think. I think what we need to focus on is this Albany County legislator blight to better enforcement. This was written by the legislators, and they asked me to break the law. Another thing that was incorrect, it said that if there are no heirs, you have to realize there are heirs. We sell properties, nobody, or estates, nobody wants to take control. They just want to sit back, make me do all the work, and then they get all the money. Or sometimes they don't get any money because it goes to taxes and Medicaid liens and mortgages. Sometimes there is no money to disperse to heirs, sometimes there is. We have to find the heirs. I have heirs in jail. I have heirs that are, can't be found. I got people calling me from jail to make sure I disperse the money to somebody else. This is the unbelievable job that I have. You think it's just hit copy and paste? No, it's not. It's so complicated, it's unbelievable. And I don't think you all know what it takes to be a public administrator. It is heartfelt, emotional. I took over a house, the lady didn't have a toilet. She had $300,000 in the bank. That's what we should be focused on. How come we can't help these people while they're living? I know that public administration is my job. It's part of because I am the CFO. If Albany County wants to take over this job, be happy, go ahead. You'll get sued 10-1 because I do a very good job. And the previous controller, I will say, did not have as good a record as I do. And the surrogate court is very happy of the work that I do. And I'm being challenged, and it's exhausting. And I'll tell you, I need to focus on things like double paychecks that just happened this week. A wire didn't go out last week for $1.2 million. I'm the CFO and Albany County Controller of an $850 million budget, and I have to do this job, and I will. You said there were no questions. I see that there's several questions. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I leave it to the committee.
Now, you're here as a courtesy, you made your statement, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody want to call me? I'll be happy to answer any
No
questions.
No, I just want to make
You can make a statement, go ahead.
I am an attorney and I do a lot of estate administration and I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen people with no
Yeah.
toilets and, I mean, it is a lot of work.
Thank
I
you.
don't really understand this, but anyway, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll talk in public forum.
Thank you.
Okay, then we want to get back to 386.
36.
Any motions?
There's something.
Motion,
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? All right, 386 unanimous. 387?
So, 387, I thought we were gonna hear that why this was, we are the law committee. This has been passed by the Audit and Finance Committee. I didn't hear anything about this not being like lawful or within our jurisdiction. So I'm inclined to support it. Because it's in our jurisdiction. I mean, that's the question. That's the question before us. And the question's been answered in the affirmative.
I would like to see, me personally, I would like you to take the surrogate stuff out for now. She's got the surrogates court advisory panel responding to her, which to me is a higher responsibility. You're shaking your head, no, you don't agree with me, you haven't heard what I said yet. They could tell us that there are certain things that they request that we don't need in. And I gotta tell you, I understand what she's talking about. If somebody has 20 pieces of jewelry,
I understand.
are we now gonna sit down and say, because the Audit and Finance Committee wants it, instead of her reporting to the surrogates court that she sold $10,000 worth of jewelry and got 3 estimates like this, we're gonna list every piece of jewelry
So-
and every,
Go ahead.
If
Go
I,
ahead.
I just want to answer you, I'm not trying to.
no, I understand, and I'm very uncomfortable with this.
So I'm not willing to remove it yet, only because of timing. So hear me out on this. So this is our last committee meeting. If we take it out, it's done for the year, right? Except for a special meeting. And we're not gonna do a special meeting for one bill to put back in. However, if the surrogate court comes back with specific things, I'm willing to work with everyone here to amend it on the floor to be reasonable. I'm not trying to be unreasonable, I'm not trying to break the law, and that is absolutely my right to amend that.
Yeah.
And it's much easier to amend it than take it out at the last meeting of the year, put it back in, have a special meeting and do that. And I'm willing to do that, and once we hear from them, I'm willing to do that at the December meeting, before December, whatever it is.
I have no problem with that, but I'd like you to reverse it. I'd like you to take it out now, so that it goes to the floor without it. And then if there is a surrogate's court report that says it's okay to have it in the form that we want, then you put that language back in.
I understand your point, I'm just not willing to do that. I'm willing to do it. Yeah.
Listen, this got reported out of favorably audit and finance.
So I'd have to go back to audit and
So,
finance
hold
and
on,
change
hold
it,
on,
yeah.
September 28th, that was 7 weeks ago. If there was some.
And a full open heart
legal-
surgery
There was
agreement.
some
You know,
legal
do it
impediment to
well.
this, hold on, if there was some legal impediment to this, surely we would have heard it in the intervening 7 weeks. No one in any kind of position of authority has said a word objecting to this.
I would beg to differ with you, Jeff. We have the person who is the public administrator here raising major issues with it.
Not legal issues.
I don't, you know something? I think we have as much of a responsibility to help her in her job without creating meaningless tasks so that.
I don't think it's meaningless.
So that,
It's your
so that
opinion,
the
Paul.
audit.
Listen, Jennifer, what's your statement, and let's move on.
Okay,
I mean, it's almost
For
8
now,
o'clock.
I'm voting against this.
All right,
I think it's
go ahead.
unduly burdensome and overreaching, and I think it's really curious, like, no one wants to know how many migrants are coming up to Colony
Okay,
and
all
take
right.
an inventory of them, but you want an inventory of
Okay,
something
fine.
you've already inventoried by a
All
very
right,
capable
we're moving on,
person?
thank you. Moving on, thank
So
you.
you've seen the inventory?
All right,
Oh, guess not.
Chairman, I'd like
Okay,
to
no,
make a
we're
No,
motion.
I haven't, no,
Can I-
I don't know.
can I get a
I've seen the
motion?
inventory. Have
Yeah,
you
this
seen
on
the
387.
inventory? Like, what is
I
the
offer to
purpose
make
of
a
this?
motion.
what's your motion?
My motion is that this go out with a negative recommendation. Would you second that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, all in favor of this going out with a negative recommendation? All against? Fails. Can I get another motion?
Move this out. Move
Favorably?
In favor of, yeah, move out resolution 387 favorable.
Second, Mr. Ricard? All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Jennifer?
Okay,
What?
two against, okay.
Against.
Okay, passes, thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I can't say you were on audit finance. I don't, you're on audit finance, right?